Madonna and Angelina may have brought it into the headlines, but lots of Canadians have been doing it too, adopting children from developing countries, places like Ethiopia. Hundreds of Canadians have adopted children from the East African nation, but now some of them are finding out their adoption agency misled them about their children's past. Here is Marie-Claude Gay with a special CBC Radio-Canada investigation called Learning the Truth.
Adoption, for many a profound journey and also profound joy. But what happens when your child's story is not what you thought, not what your agency told you?
She asked why did you adopt me?
He had a large lump on his neck that was bubbling with blood and pressed down his shirt.
We felt we participated in a terrible crime.
We can't imagine having anybody else in our lives because we love her a lot.
Yeah, probably.
Chris Ferris and Doug Hopwood adopted their daughter Tseganet 2 years ago from Ethiopia. Like many families, they went through the Manitoba-based agency, CAFAC. But right from the start, they said things just didn't add up.
The information there was that she was found abandoned, that she had no family members still living, that her mother was dead, that her father was dead, that their names were unknown. We thought that seemed unlikely to us. If you know someone's dead, how come you don't know their name?
We told CAFAC right from the start, this is fishy and we're not comfortable with it. We want to get to the bottom, but, you know, there just has been no help or even really an acknowledgement that that's a problem. Sandals and followed her.
Back in Canada, Tseganet seemed troubled. She had nightmares and shouted names in her sleep. She was desperate to tell them something.
Some of them I just woke up and felt really bad, sad, because about my family.
But that was sort of, one of the first clues we had that there were people.
It's almost an identical story in the Hembrook home. When Desi started to speak English, they couldn't believe what they were hearing.
She wanted to know why she had been adopted. She asked, why did you adopt me? And we said, well, you are an orphan. Your birth mom and birth father are dead in Ethiopia. You were living in an orphanage. You needed a mom and a dad, and we needed a daughter. So it was a good fit. And she said, no, my family's not dead.
The official CAFAC referral said her mother was dead, but Desi insisted she wasn't.
We were dumbfounded. It was like, what? Why then is she with us? It wasn't what we wanted. We wanted a child who needed a mom and a dad because we wanted a daughter. We didn't want to take a child who had a family.
Come on, Josh,
for the Siemens family, the trouble began with their child's health. When they first saw Joshua in Ethiopia, they never thought he would survive the trip back home.
Our first words when they put him in our arms was, this isn't our son. There's been a mistake. This can't be our son. He was, we had been referred a very healthy, chubby-cheeked, sparkling-eyed, quite a big boy. And we were handed this emaciated little boy.
Joshua was treated in hospital in Ethiopia and again in Canada. He was diagnosed with a lymph node infection that had spread and abscessed. The family complained to the agency, and 4 months later, CAFAC replied saying they corrected the situation and hired more staff. But the Siemens were still confused. CAFAC twice told them Joshua had passed his immigration medical, but each time a different date was given.
We felt they were doing that again, just fabricating false information to make us feel better. And we said, this is not the truth, and what we want is the truth.
All the families raised their concerns with the agency, but say the response was not adequate. Desperate to find the truth, they decided to hire their own private detectives. Logan Cochran speaks the local language and has spent many years doing charity work in Africa. His own half-brother was adopted from Ethiopia through CAFAC, and Cochran says most of his information was wrong too.
Somewhere in the system there's definitely a problem. There are far too many families who have information that is clearly wrong.
Cochran says he's helped more than a dozen clients from CAFAC verify the information they got from the agency. In some cases, it only took him a few days to find documents and biological families. But when he looked into the Siemens case, it came up cold.
Our searcher went back a week later, and the director said, there's absolutely no record of anything that you have given us. And our searcher, questioned it and said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, there's no paperwork. There should be a lot of paperwork. There should be a whole paper trail, and there's absolutely none. And then he said, it looks like an illegal adoption.
Need to be harder?
The Hambrooks also used a detective. Within a few days, their searcher was able to find Dassie's biological mother, who was listed as dead.
And there was all these questions as, am I parenting a kidnapped child? Does her birth mom really know these things? If she did, why was the referral wrong? I didn't go into this to take a child from a birth mom. I didn't go into this to rip a family apart so I could have one. That wasn't my intent.
Hambrook contemplated giving her daughter back. She decided to go to Ethiopia to meet the birth mother for herself.
When I met her birth mom, which I did meet her, she was flabbergasted to find out that her daughter, she was declared deceased.
She also discovered Dassie was not kidnapped, but many questions still remain. The Hopwoods adoption puzzle suddenly came together in this Ethiopian restaurant. The chef is from the same village and remembers Zegenet growing up in a large extended family.
I know everybody. I know her grandma, her grandpa. I know her mom, but she's passed away. Her family is close to my mom's house.
Well, it just seemed so improbable.
It was kind of like, ta-da, like I was living in a mystery movie with this amazing coincidence and a strange twist of the plot or something. But, that was all because we had been led to believe in this myth of you could never learn the truth.
It's still not clear why Zegenet was given up for adoption or what the family was told, but she is in contact with them again.
Here's my grandpa, and here's my grandma.
Zegenet also remembers her time in the Kafak foster home and Kafak's representative, Haragwan Baran. She says Baran asked her to lie about her age and to lie about her family.
They thought that Canadian people wouldn't like to adopt older people, older kids.
So what did they tell you?
They told my mom and dad that I was 4, and they told me not to tell that I was 6.
Zegenet remembers kids were punished if they would not obey the rules.
She just always used to hit kids, and she always used to come to the orphanage, and she's like, now who's been bad?
What would she do with kids that would have been bad?
She would say, put out your hand, and she would slap them.
The Kafak foster home in Addis is where the children spend time before leaving for Canada. Haragwan Baran says corporal punishment is part of the culture in Ethiopia.
This is the way we train. I was beaten by my parents. It wasn't bad. That's good. We don't keep quiet when she beat another child. We don't keep quiet when she just misbehaves or whatever. We were disciplining her, not hurting her.
Baran knows about all the family's complaints, but says they are baseless.
So they are now sitting in front of their computer and writing 35, 40 pages of allegation or fabricated stories, things like that. And it's not Kafak who pushed them to adopt this child. It was all their idea, but they were not ready.
There are 71 foreign adoption agencies in Ethiopia, and the government says they are not approving anymore. The Minister of Women's Affairs says adoption fraud is on the rise, and they are starting to crack down. In the last year, they've closed 5 agencies for forging adoptions.
And they say that this child is an abandoned child. But the reality is not that he has or she or he has a mother and a father. So what we're facing is that they are not respecting the laws and the rules of the country. Most of them are doing this child trafficking crime.
I personally do not know of any fraud cases from Ethiopia, so let's answer that. Is it possible? Anything, I suppose, is possible.
Roberta Galbraith is one of the co-founders of Kafak. the agency these families complain to. CAFAC has been in the adoption business for almost 15 years and have completed almost 300 adoptions from Ethiopia alone.
I believe that the adoptions that we have done through the Ministry of Women's Affairs and the court system in Ethiopia have been legal and ethical and followed the checks and balances that they themselves have established in the system.
We asked her who wrote the main referral papers that families received and why information in those documents is wrong.
Our representative, Harrigan Burhan, along with the licensed orphanage, puts that information together.
Do you attempt actually to verify those information?
Yes, we have, from time to time, spot checked and audited, yes.
Why not every time?
For the Ethiopian government, it looks like we don't trust what they're saying. And at this point, we do trust what they're saying.
Burhan says the orphanage knows Tseganet's biological family. The orphanage took the CBC to meet them. Grandparents she called parents, an aunt, and cousins. They were happy to hear Tseganet was doing well, but it's still unclear why her referral papers said she had no family. Why is it that when your representative, Harrigan Burhan, wrote this child study form, why is it that she didn't just say, okay, there's something that is not adding up there?
Looking back on some of the cases, yes, there should have been more information. Does it mean that the situation was wrong? No.
But it's not about more information here. It's about information that doesn't add up. How can you explain sending a child study form with information that doesn't add up?
Well, that I can't speak to. That, that particular case, I don't know why they didn't put that in.
The province of Manitoba issues the license for CAFAC to operate in the province and approves each adoption. We asked the director to explain to us how a family can get such a document.
I don't know where this came from, but the concerns that you raised are valid. If this was something that we were looking at specifically, which we can, since you've provided it to me, I would have our adoption specialist review it and then review it with the agency. So if you're fine with that, then I would take this material for us to follow up with.
CAFAC pays Harrigan Burhan on commission for each adoption, but other agencies have stopped paying on commission. They believe it offers too much incentive.
It's not a profit-making activity, and the whole idea was not a profit.
But the Ethiopian government is not so sure. They say that adoption has become big business, and many agencies and orphanages are making a lot of money. They're not sure where the money goes.
In most of them, there's no transparent way of running these finances.
An audit of all 71 agencies was done last September. 31 agencies did not pass the government test. Number 11 on the list, CAFAC. The ministry said they didn't pass government standards because of health conditions in the foster home and lack of training.
The staff who are in the organization are not qualified. They are not qualified.
The Ministry of Women's Affairs says they informed CAFAC's representative, Harrigan Burhan, about the list. But Galbraith says she has no knowledge of being on the watch list.
I'm surprised that you're saying that. So if there's concerns, absolutely, I want to know about them. And I haven't been provided with anything yet. Am I disappointed with or concerned about the children, the caregivers in our home? No. I observed them, and they do a good job of meeting the needs of the kids.
But it looks like it's not enough for MOA. Are you scared that they could shut you down?
No.
We asked her why they were still using corporal punishment in their foster home.
What I want to speak to is the cultural differences. Our representative know what the standards of Canada are? Absolutely. We tell our staff, all of the staff, that discipline in Canada is, we have a standard here that it should not be physical.
CAFAC says Ethiopia's International Adoption Office recommended Harrigan Burhan to work with them 15 years ago. She says Burhan has a lot of integrity and takes the adoption process very seriously. Galbraith doesn't believe Burhan would tell children to lie about their age and family.
I don't believe that. Is it possible? that the child perceives that that was part of the reason that she was placed and that she needed to do that. I can't speak for that child. Is it possible that her perception might be that way? Absolutely, it could be. You know, I'm not close enough to that particular, situation with older kids.
CAFAC still has a valid license from the Ethiopian government to do adoption. The ministry says they will do follow-up checks on the agency to see if they have made improvements before they decide what to do next. Manitoba Adoption Services say they will reopen the Hopwood, Siemens, and Hembrooks files. They also want CAFAC to explain why they pay their Ethiopian staff on commission. And the province says they plan to discuss the issues we raised in our story with other federal government departments. As for the families, they all still believe in international adoption in Ethiopia. They wish Canadian agencies will bring more professionalism into their process so kids and families do not suffer unnecessarily.
She does have birth family. You've been telling her this lie for the whole, 6 months she's been home. What does that do as your credibility as a parent?
If it doesn't add up, if there's contradictory information, if there's information where the source is not available to you, if it's just verbal, then maybe those children shouldn't be sent out of the country.
We feel betrayed, a lot of trust broken, and we feel sad that, is there a mom over in Ethiopia who's wondering every day where this incredible, phenomenal child is, who's now our son and whom we love dearly. And it's hard because this is not the journey we signed up for.
Marie-Claude Gay, CBC News, Edmonton.
The Manitoba government said tonight Canadian officials will contact the Ethiopian government. They want to learn more about the watch list that the Manitoba Adoption Agency is on. Still to come, this story.
I feel very fortunate that my